Hi, I'm Michael Yardney, and I guess you know that population growth has been one of the factors driving up our property values over the last few years. So with the slowdown in the number of new people calling Australia home, some investors have become concerned. Remember, as the rate of population growth slows, so too does competition for housing stock. And population growth dropped from 467,000 people in the year to June 2009, last year, to, it's 2011 already, isn't it? So 2009 was 2 years ago. It's dropped from 467 to 400,000 in the year to June last year. And look, it may even fall to 300,000 in June this year. So population growth is dropping, and that's where the concern is. But recently, research from National Institute of Labour Studies puts a very different spin on things. The research suggests that Australia's capital cities will more than double in size within 50 years under the current immigration regime. And even if there's no immigration, our capitals will grow in size, our capital cities will grow in size by roughly 50%. Now, what does that mean for you and me as property investors? Now, I'm going to explain that in a moment, but beforehand, I'd like to remind you that I've just recently produced this great 3 DVD set. There's 2 DVDs in this one called Building Wealth Through Property Investment, where I lay down my systems and strategies that are known, proven, trusted, that are going to see you through these changing property markets. And then there's also this very important program, an hour program, on how successful property investors think differently to the average investor. And you can buy both of these from our online bookshop by clicking the link down below. Now, back to what we were talking about before. Lead researcher Dr. Jonathan Sobels from Flinders University was reported in The Australian saying that Sydney and Melbourne are going to rise to something in the order of 7 million people over the next 50 years. And he said, we've got something in the order of half of that now. And he went on to say, where are we going to put all those people? They're not going to all go into 50-storey apartment blocks. Physically, he said, the demand on land is going to be immense. Now, the good news for people like you and me is that affluence is also forecast to rise faster under high immigration scenarios, driving up the use of space and resources. Per capita wealth is likely to rise 2.3 times by mid this century, with migration levels of only 260,000 people, and we're getting a lot more than that. And even if there's no increase in migration, it's likely that wealth would double in the same time frame. But this growth will come at a price. You see, consumption is forecast to rise with affluence, contributing to growing levels of waste, congestion, and use of environmental resources. In fact, the report went on to say the magnitude of the impacts of all the net overall migration levels suggests that unless substantial and timely actions are taken to address these impacts, some impacts have the potential to disrupt Australia's economy and society. In fact, Dr. Sobel said that farms and public land could be consumed as our bulging cities expand. And I guess the release of this document, which was prepared for the Department of Immigration and Citizenship, has rehashed that old argument about immigration levels. You remember only a couple of years ago, creating a sustainable Australia became a Labor mantra. It was at the last election where Julia Gillard veered sharply from Kevin Rudd's Big Australia plan. But even the Prime Minister's vision of a sustainable Australia is under threat from this immigration-linked urban sprawl. But to me, the conclusion is inescapable. We're going to have to substantially increase our population. Look, let's look at the facts. Today, about 43% of our workforce is made up of baby boomers. That's people born between 1945 and 1964. What that means is that over the next 15 years, Australia's 5.3 million baby boomers are going to reach retirement age. And as they leave the workforce, they're going to stop paying taxes. And many are going to have to go on the pension, because we know what's happened to their superannuation, and most of them are going to use our public health care systems. You see, baby boomers just don't have enough savings in their superannuation to see them through retirement. This means many will have to keep working longer than anticipated, But eventually, when they do retire, they're going to place a massive burden on our financial system. And the government's going to have to find money for their pensions and their health costs, while at the same time making up for the lost taxation revenue. They haven't got many choices. Either they're going to have to increase taxes for those people who are working. That's going to be political suicide, isn't it? Or they're going to have to increase the size of the tax-paying workforce by importing more younger workers. So despite the rhetoric from both sides of Parliament, we have to significantly increase our population to replace the workforce and to capture skills and to grow our economy. If you want to see the alternative, just have a look at what's happened to countries with an ageing population. Countries like Japan, like Germany, and to some extent America. So my question to you is, where are we going to put all these people? If you break the numbers down, the numbers suggest that there's probably about 150,000 new households being formed in Australia each year. Now, there was more in the past, but I'm suggesting now on low immigration. Most of these people are going to move to our capital cities, not to regional Australia. Remember, all these people need to buy a home or rent a home. And most of these newcomers will want to live in our inner and middle ring suburbs, near schools, near hospitals, near the workplace, near infrastructure. Clearly, we're going to need more medium density dwellings. There's no doubt that this substantial increase in population is going to bring with it many social, political, infrastructure and environmental concerns. But the end result is inevitable. In the words of a famous past Prime Minister, we're going to have to either populate or perish. Now, as our population grows, this is going to have a massive impact on our property markets. One of the interesting things our research at Metropole has shown is that 30% of the dwellings that are going to be needed by 2030 haven't been built yet. The fact is that the value of properties around Australia are going to increase significantly, as will rents. But as always, some properties are going to outperform others. In particular, those closer to the centre of our capital cities or close to infrastructure and amenities, they're likely to outperform. So what type of property is going to be in strong demand in the future? One trend I'd like you to watch is that of the baby boomers who have driven our property markets for years. And with around 150,000 baby boomers retiring, and this equates to somewhere between, 75,000 and 100,000 households, most with only one or two people in them. With all these people, what are going to be their preferred style of accommodation? Now, I'm going to leave this to a future update, but understanding the type of property that's going to be in continuous strong demand in the future will help you become a super successful investor. In fact, I've discussed this in my DVD set, Building Wealth Through Property Investment, where we'll go into it in great detail. But the lessons from all this is that the long-term future for property is bright for property investors. Now, as I say, I've outlined the approach I'm taking in 2011 in this new DVD program, Building Wealth, where I run through my views on where the economy is heading and what property strategies are going to work over the next few years. See, for close to 4 hours, I explain my successful property investment approach. If you want to be prepared for this new era, click on the link below, and when you get the DVD, you're going to get 3 free bonus reports and audios that come with it. Now, of course, I'm going to keep you updated to how these changes are going to affect our property markets and how you can take advantage of them, but in future updates. But it's probably appropriate to remind you that in changing times like we're experiencing, no one can help you quite like the independent property investment strategists at Metropole. Remember, our multi-award winning team, I'm really proud they've actually won a whole new heap of awards this year. Our multi-award winning team have no properties to sell, so their advice is independent and unbiased. If you want to find out a bit more about what's happening in your local markets and what our research suggests is in store for you, join us at a free property briefing in Melbourne, Sydney or Brisbane. Just click on the link below to find out more and reserve your place. Now, because so much is happening in property nowadays, I'm also going to keep you updated almost every day in a short post in my blog. So just click the Michael's blog link up top there in the top menu and subscribe to it. That's a different subscription to my regular newsletter. It gives you my short daily updates. So go to Michael's blog and subscribe. I look forward to sending you your next property update in 2 weeks' time. In the meantime, have a great week. Make it a great week. This is Michael Yardney.